Where dreams are made of.
The Sports Hub Celtics Show on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Brought to you by Shaw's and Star Market, Delta Dental of Massachusetts, and Corona. Now, Gasper and Murray.
Welcome into a special edition of the Sports Hub Celtics Show. No Jim Murray today. It's Alex Barth alongside Chris Gasper on a very special hour-long edition of the Sports Hub Celtics Show as Jayson Tatum has made his return. A special night last night at TD Garden. The environment, unbelievable. Tatum got it going. We'll get into it over the next hour here. You want to join us, 617-779-0985 Gasper. There's a million angles we can attack this from, so let's just start big picture. You hear Eddie Palladino call his name. You see him running up and down the floor for 6 minutes before he comes out. You know, there was some rust. He had to shake it off. But just seeing him back out there playing, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I was thinking for him that this is the culmination of all the work he put in, and it's something where it's a milestone for him just to be able to get back. I'm impressed by it, his ability to get back. I know Felger wasn't yesterday on Felger and Maz, but I think, again, 298 days, 9 months, 22 days, you're back in under 10 months. That's impressive for me, and my thought was, okay, in a lot of ways, while the Celtics have used these first 62 games of the year and played very well to put themselves in a position, it's like the season kind of starts now, because I think everything that will determine how they finish really starts with, one, was Jayson Tatum coming back? Okay, yes, he is coming back. And then what does he look like, and how does he integrate into this team? So it was really sort of game one in a lot of ways for the Celtics season last night. But, just great to see him back. And when you have a player like that, you know what I thought of, Alex? I actually thought about Tom Brady. And when Brady...
2009?
Yeah, and I was covering the Patriots, and I was on the beat. And what you hope is that when you think about a night like last night, as cool as it was, ultimately it's not one of the defining nights of Jayson Tatum's season. As cool as it was when Brady came back in 2009 and they had the great comeback against the Bills, thank you, Leotis McKelvin. At the end of the day, like, when you think about Tom Brady, is that one of the defining moments of his career?
It is and it isn't. To me, like, I think it is, because it kicks off this whole, he was a little older than Tatum is, and there was the element of it was kind of like Tom Brady 2.0.
But
right?
Was he a different player? Like, is there a line of demarcation for that injury in terms of he was this player before, this player after, in terms of being a lesser player? Like, when you really think about it, at least in my mind, like,
right.
the injury was huge, and I was there when it happened. But I don't think about it and think, oh, Tom was he had a different cast around him. There were times they threw the ball more than in the early years because, the defense. So my point is, what you're ultimately hoping is that you look back on this and it's cool, but it doesn't define Jayson Tatum.
You're not talking about,
no
well,
line of
before
demarcation.
The injury, Jayson Tatum could have done this. And look, there were some of those moments last night. Man, I got to show you the picture I got of him going up for that dunk. Had he hit that, I think I probably would have done 1 million impressions on Twitter. But he'll look at that.
Oh, that is a great photo.
I tweeted it out. You can go check it out. Just with the Jayson Tatum. That's the caption. It's just his name. There were some of those moments last night. I think you expect those right away. Sure. It's just going to kind of be as we go on here. What is it? 20 games now, 19 games, 5 weeks until you get to the playoffs, and then obviously into early next season. There is just naturally going to be some building back up the strength and the athleticism and all of that, but first, let's start here. I was just going to read the stat line, but I think we need to stop right at the first column on ESPN's box score, which is 27 minutes.
Yes.
I did not expect him to play that much. I thought it was going to be around 20. He was at, I think, 23. He hits that corner three that ended up being his last made shot of the night, put him up like 19. It was their largest lead of the night at that point. Mavericks called timeout. Building's going nuts. And I'm like, all right, that's a wrap. That'll do it. And he stayed in and played another essentially like between commercials, and they were up big. And he wasn't the only one in. Jaylen Brown was in, some other guys, but they were up big. He'd hit that shot. He'd had his moment. It seemed like all the reasons in the world. It's his first game back, pull him, and they ran him out to 27 minutes. That, to me, was sneaky one of the most encouraging moments of the night, that they felt good kind of letting him go from there. Now we know Joe Mazzulla has a tendency to stay on the air on the longer side of leaving guys in, but I was very surprised that he stayed on the floor.
No, it's a great point. 27 minutes is very encouraging. And Joe even said after the game, he was asked, did anything surprise you? And he was like, his conditioning.
Yeah.
So his conditioning looked good. And I think that's a good sign in terms of being able to ramp up and get back to being Jayson Tatum. Now, look, there were so many great signs last night and glimpses of the actual Jayson Tatum. But let's be honest about it. I mean, anybody with any sort of injury, never mind an Achilles, who misses basically 10 months of basketball, is going to be rusty.
Yeah.
And so was that I think people have gone a little overboard in terms of being like, that was incredible. No, it was a great debut for him, but I mean, that was not the full Jayson Tatum. The full Jayson Tatum doesn't airball threes and miss a dunk. But you saw the glimpses of the fact that he can get back to being the full Jayson Tatum. And I thought that was really, really encouraging. Once he scored the dunk, the putback dunk, then he has that patented sidestep three in the corner late in the first half. The most impressive thing to me and the most encouraging thing to me was the basket he scored on Dwight Powell. Well, he got to the basket. He attacked the basket, got there, absorbed some contact. You're going to need more of that from him because one of the great things about Jayson Tatum in the NBA, when he's at his full peak of powers, he gets to the free throw line at will. And he didn't shoot any free throws last night. He could have shot a free throw on that. I thought that could have been an and one, but it wasn't. But that's what you want to see is his ability to get downhill, get to the rim, get to his spots, absorb contact, get to the free throw line. That will help the team. So I saw enough to be really encouraging. I would say last night was a very encouraging debut for Jayson Tatum, but I hear like a little bit of stuff the way people are talking about it. I mean, you would think it was like Magic Johnson in his prime out there, which it was not.
I think let me ask you this. What was your expectation going in?
My expectation going in was a lot of what we saw in the first half with the 0 for 6.
Okay.
Because I just thought
I think that's maybe why people are reacting the way they are. Because they were expecting maybe a dud, and then especially the way it started. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm sitting up there at one point thinking, like, what if he only scores like 4 points? Like, that would kind of put a damper on it. So maybe that's why people are reacting that way. So he started 0 for 6, gets a putback dunk, and then the sidestep. That seemed to make everything click. Finished after going 0 for 6, went 6 for his next 10, 6 for 16 total, 3 of 8 from deep, 15 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists.
The playmaking was there from the jump.
Playmaking, and it's funny because that's the one thing that everybody was like, how's he going to fit back into the offense? What's his chemistry going to be like? And this and that. And they have this new style. The one thing he was doing right from the beginning, the vision, the passing, the playmaking, that was, I saw, and to your point about how some people are reacting, it's a little much to say that was classic Jayson Tatum last night. There were classic moments.
Yes, I agree.
But his ability to make others better when he didn't have it as a scorer, that was textbook Jayson Tatum for the full 27 minutes he was on the floor.
I agree with you on that. And that was the part that it's a good point by you in terms of integrating back into the team. But I thought that the playmaking would be there because he has such a high basketball IQ, and you could see that. He can think the game at a high level, and he was thinking the game. The alley-oop he threw to Nemish Queta, that was right on the money. And so the playmaking was there from the beginning, and that's really going to help the Celtics to have another playmaker out there, not just an elite playmaker. Looking at that game, I think you see Jayson Tatum come back and make those plays, and then you also saw the growth we've seen from Jaylen Brown as a playmaker while Tatum was out, the backdoor pass he throws to Jarek White. So having yet another playmaker, I think that will really help them in terms of being able to generate offense. It's interesting because if you go back to November the 4th, which is the day after they had that game against Utah where they shot 11 of 51 from 3, all that lead-up time to last night without Tatum, they were number 1 in the NBA since that time in offensive rating at over 121 per 100 possessions. So that offense has been clicking. But there's even another level when you add a top-5 player like Jayson Tatum.
I want to get more into the offense, but real quick before we hit the break. Any player, lower body injury, ligament injury, ankle injury, movement's a concern. Defense. What did you think of him defensively last night?
And I think, I'm trying to remember who said, it was Gary Washburn, my colleague in the Globe, wrote this, and I agreed, that he looked a little timid and tentative defensively, and that's the area maybe I'm worried the most about him impacting the team just because they are number 1 in the NBA in points allowed per game. They've been so good. And you saw in that game, when did that game kind of shift early on? It was when Tatum came out and they put the energy guys like Ugo in, and the defense ramped up and they got turnovers. So that might be kind of the last thing to come is the defense. There was a point in that game where you could tell where defensively maybe the quickness, the anticipation was a little off. They were at the free throw line. Dallas shot a free throw. They missed, and the ball kind of came to Tatum, and he was just like a step slow, and Caleb Martin got it and took it from him. So it's stuff like that will probably take a little bit of time just because they've developed this defensive identity that is based on these wing guys like Shireman, like Jordan Walsh, like Ugo Gonzalez, just being such pests. And that will be the thing that I think takes the longest for Tatum, is just to be that dominant two-way player again.
And that's, as they get into the Mavericks are what they are at this point. And credit to Cooper Flagg. He took it to him. Flagg was also very fun to watch last night. We can get into that.
He's going to be great.
A little bit more. He really is. But as we get into, they got Cleveland. That's a big game coming up on Sunday. Who knows if Tatum will play. But, as they get into these tougher matchups, Tatum not being a liability defense. Not that he was a liability last night, but teams, I think, are going to try to hunt him.
They're going to test him
until he can prove that he can move. So that's going to be something to watch as well as the Celtics move forward. And Joe Mazzulla said it last night. Jayson Tatum said it last night. It's very true. It felt like an ending. It felt like a mission accomplished moment. In a lot of ways it was. But it's also very much the beginning because, hey, 19 games, then you're in the playoffs, and it's not unrealistic to say they should be contending for an NBA title. So what does that look like now, these next 19 games in this playoff run with Jayson Tatum in the picture? I want to get into some looking forward with you, Chris Gasper, who's here. It's Alex Barth. You want to join us? 617-779-0985. Jayson Tatum's back. Now what? We'll get into that next here on the Sports Hub Celtics Show.
It's a long process. It's a lot that goes into it, physically, emotionally, and mentally. It's the physical aspect, passing all your strength tests and things like that. It's a ramp-up period of conditioning and doing contact stuff and, heavy days, and then seeing how you feel the next day and respond, and, weeks of that. It's just like it's a long journey. And, it's not just an easy decision to make. It's a very serious thing that happened and that I had to overcome. And, this was a huge step, but I still got a long way to go. But this was a really big step for me.
Alex Barth, Chris Gasper here on the Sports Hub Celtics Show. Real quick, we have an update from the Celtics before we get back into Jayson Tatum in your phones. Sean Grandy just tweeting this out from the team PR. Celtics center Nikola Vucevic today underwent successful ORIF surgery to stabilize a fracture in his right ring finger. The surgery was performed at New England Baptist Hospital. Vucevic will be reevaluated in 3 to 4 weeks. Updates will be provided as appropriate. So we hurt that finger last night. We can get into that more in a little bit, Gasper. But again, the big story, Jayson Tatum coming back, and the environment. We were talking about this during the break at TD Garden last night. First of all, credit the crowd more than rose to the occasion. Like, if you were at the game last night, pat yourself on the back. You did a great
you
job.
were there.
Yeah.
In the building.
It was the biggest crowd I've ever seen for warm-ups. And there were people in their seats in just about every section 70, 80 minutes prior to the game. And then the ovation he got at the beginning, my favorite moment was when he hit the sidestep three, and the place went nuts. But really cool moment. So that came across on TV. And from the clips I've seen, I think what you saw on TV was what you got. The one, I don't know if it came across, but was really cool. Right away. So Celtics win the tip. And the first, I forget, I think Hauser ended up with the ball. Somebody ended up with the ball and passes, they get up, everybody gets under the half court, and the pass goes to Tatum. And Cooper Flagg is defending him. And I don't know if it was just Tatum getting the ball. I don't know if people recognize Flagg was a part of that, because the Cooper Flagg thing was real last night. There were a lot of, not just Duke number 2 jerseys, Mavericks number 32 jerseys. And there were kids, I saw a number of kids, Celtics hat, Cooper Flagg Mavericks jersey. Like, that part did...
Maine showed up.
It did not get fully overshadowed.
No
Maine
doubt.
showed up. New England showed up for Cooper Flagg. So 10 seconds in the game, pass to Jayson Tatum. Cooper Flagg's right there. The place just goes nuts. And then Tatum, I think he dribbled once or twice, passed the ball off. They end up, somebody misses a shot. Whatever. But, that was okay, this is what tonight is. It was very cool. And, yeah, for everybody, there was a big crowd around the Celtics tunnel waiting for Tatum to come out for warm-ups. There was a decent crowd in front of the Mavericks tunnel at the same time waiting for Cooper Flagg. And, you had to make your choice. They're on opposite ends of the floor, and I think they came out at about the same time. I'll give you one more. One of the really crazy things to me, and I completely forgot he was on the Mavericks. Kyrie Irving comes out on the floor for warm-ups. And I understand why this is the case, but even if he had played last night, he's out. He's come back from a torn ACL. Kyrie Irving back at TD Garden was at best a C story.
It's true.
That's how nuts last night was.
No, it's a great point. Now, did Kyrie have the sage? Do you have the sage?
I did not see if he had the sage. That just might be when he's playing.
I thought maybe he'd have to sage the place for Jayson Tatum.
Oh, I think the fans did it for him.
Okay,
but it was an awesome environment. Let's grab a call, and then I want to get looking forward a little bit with the Celtics. Dean in Shrewsbury. Dean, what's up?
Hey, I don't like how the Celtics ran their offense yesterday. There were too many three-point shots. They had more three-point shots than two-point shots in the first half and ended up with just 2 less three-pointers than two-pointers. I think Tatum brought a lot of gravity and got people open. But what they should do when they get the ball from Tatum on the perimeter and they're open at the three-point line, they should drive and either try to draw 2 or finish with a layup and then kick it back out and shoot the 3 if that's what's available instead of passing along the perimeter because your efficiency goes up when you're taking layups and dunks or passing out to the three-point line from the paint instead of the perimeter.
Yeah, I mean, I did think, early on there were a lot of threes, but here's what, and I've been critical in the past of the three-point attempts, and you look at last night, 48 three-point attempts, they only shot 33% from the field, they made 16. But I think what Joe Mazzulla would say, and this is a night where I think he is correct, those were good looks. They didn't feel like forces to me. Obviously, they didn't make them early on in the game, particularly in the first quarter. They didn't shoot very well. Neither team really shot very well. The Celtics were 3 of 14 from 3 in the first quarter. But I don't love how much they shoot the 3 at times, but I didn't feel like, again, that Utah game I referenced where they were 11 of 51 on November the 3rd. I didn't feel like it was like that game where they were just looking for an easy out and jacking up threes. They were moving the ball. These were good looks. They just didn't go down early. I can live with it.
I know. I had a buddy who coached, we were in college, volunteered, did some basketball coaching with like high school kids, and he had what was called the C-rim shoot ball offense.
Okay.
Because he wanted to shoot a bunch of threes and do that, and it was, you can see the rim, you shoot the ball. And that's not what last night was. Like, they were good looks. Honestly, looking after the game, I was surprised the number was 48 threes. It did not feel that high, but this has been the question is, okay, the Celtics changed their offense with Tatum out.
Yeah.
It's worked. He's going to come back. How much of this is Tatum coming to the new offense versus the Celtics bringing their offense back to what they ran with Tatum? First look at it, what'd you think?
I thought a couple of things. One, I thought Tatum was very deferential last night. He didn't really do the Tatum takeover thing. I thought he moved the ball pretty well.
And he had chances to do it, too.
He did, and he really didn't. However, there were a couple of possessions, I thought, where the ball kind of stopped with him. Not necessarily in a negative way, more like him sort of surveying and playmaking, which is good. But when he first came out in the first quarter and they put, again, some of the energy guys in, you could see the ball like popping more. Like the ball started to move a little bit more than when he was in there. So I still think that's going to be an adjustment. And also you can see there are some times when Jaylen Brown gets the ball after a defensive rebound and he wants to push it and go. And Tatum is more, okay, I'm going to look ahead. If I have the look-up pass and he made a great one to Derek White, I'll do that. But if not, I'm going to bring it up, but I'm not like fully pushing. And so that, to me, will be the biggest push-pull in terms of what is the pace and how much do they run and how much is Tatum comfortable running. So overall last night, I thought it was successful. I think a lot of that had to do with Tatum, his great playmaking, and the fact that I feel like he was more content to just kind of blend in. But that's still going to be something to keep an eye on and a work in progress for the Celtics in terms of how they integrate how Tatum is at his best, which is the ball in his hands, surveying the court, making a decision versus what they've been doing, which I think is a little bit faster pace, getting out in transition, and also in the half court, the ball moving a little bit more.
And it didn't even feel like they had him bringing the ball up a ton compared to what he used to do.
Good point.
Maybe that's something that comes as they go, but I was kind of waiting for the Tatum point forward sets, and did we get any? I don't
Not
remember
really.
many off the top of my head.
No.
He was a true he played like a true small forward last night, which part of the great thing about him is he's so versatile and he can do all these different things. And you're not going to empty the playbook on night one. I understand why, but that seems like something they'll be building towards as they build towards it. They got a heck of a road trip coming up. They're at Cleveland tomorrow night, at the Spurs on Tuesday, at the Thunder on Thursday. It's a little easier. They come back home, Washington, Phoenix, Golden State, and they go they have Oklahoma City again here.
Yeah, Minnesota's
towards the end of the month. Minnesota. It gets a little easier
Sunday
down
game
the
with
stretch.
Minnesota.
What's next? Like, he's back. Here we go. We're not doing the when's Jayson Tatum returning. What's it going to look like? He's back. We saw at least a glimpse of where he's at. Today will be big because it's like, okay, how does he feel the next day? And when's he going to be able to play back-to-back games and things like that? But on the floor, what are you looking for over these next few games from him?
Yeah, just for him to continue to get his rhythm, his feet underneath him. The biggest thing for me, and I sort of mentioned it earlier, if you look at last night, the 16 shots, half of them were threes. That's not bad, but I just want to see him get downhill a little bit more, get to the free throw line. He's one of the best in the league at that. So can he continue? Does he feel comfortable enough to attack guys off the dribble and get to the rim? And we saw that, the dunk that he missed. We saw that on that. We saw the drive on Dwight Powell. So he was able to do it, but how much is he going to do that? Because I think given his size, and I said this before, I had no concerns, Alex, about him being able to get his looks and get his shots off, because given his size and his high release, even though he's not as tall as KD, he's a lot like KD in that, like, it doesn't matter who's guarding, he's just going to shoot over the top.
Right.
Like, he's going to get his shots off. So I'm not worried about those jumpers for the mid-range or the threes. What I want to see is his ability to get downhill, knife into a defense, and finish. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, is can he do more of that, get downhill, finish, get to the free throw line? Because these three-point shots and these mid-range jumpers, one of which he hit that was so sweet in the third quarter, he can, whether he's 60% Jayson Tatum or 95% Jayson Tatum, he can get those shots
Those
off.
are going to be there.
Those are going to be there for him.
Jayson Tatum back, his first game since the torn Achilles. 303 days since he was last introduced to TD Garden.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I looked. I'm such a sucker for those kind of stats.
Me too, yeah.
And I'd been using 298 because that was the days game to game.
Yep.
And then when he came out for warm-ups, I'm like, oh, I need something else to say. I've been using that. Oh, when was the last? Because he got hurt in New York. 303 days between the times Eddie Palladino said his name in the starting lineup.
That's kind of cool. I like that. That's a cool. I thought it was interesting too. Like, he referenced in the post game 42 and a half weeks, and it's 42 weeks and 4 days. So he's kind of mentally keeping
doing that.
track.
Well, he
of
was
it.
doing
He's
that on Twitter,
too.
wasn't he?
He was. But I thought that was interesting. He just kind of threw that. And almost every story I've read today has the 298.
298. That's why I went with 303. I was like, I'll change it up. And by the way, quick shout out to Eddie Palladino. Always does a great
Eddie's
job.
the best,
but
man.
Last night, he hit the right note. So good
He's
job.
great.
Good job by him. It's Jayson Tatum makes his return. It's Alex Barth, Chris Gasper breaking it down. You want to join us, 617-779-0985. More of the Sports Hub Celtics show after this.
Attacking Nazi Marshall, blocked to the rim by Tatum. Celtics closing in on this one now. 5 minutes into the fourth quarter, up by 16. Derek White for Jaylen Brown. Extra pass. Tatum rocking the three. Got it.
Wow. That's a great punctuation.
Alex Barth, Chris Gasper here. Sports Hub Celtics show. Jayson Tatum back in the fold as the Celtics sit in second place in the Eastern Conference. All right, Gasper, I think a lot of people saw last night, that second half last night, started figuring out with their friends where they're going to meet for the parade in a couple months. How nuts are you ready to go? How far does this thing go? How does last night change realistically? I'm obviously being tongue-in-cheek there talking about the parade, but how does that change your expectations or set your expectations for where this team ultimately ends up?
Yeah, now I think, and maybe people felt this way before, if people don't necessarily respect the Pistons, and you've seen the Knicks be an up-and-down team this year. But for me, based on what I saw last night and that performance from Tatum and my expectation that he'll get better, they're the favorite to come out of the East. in my mind. That's the way I look at it. I look at it and say they're the favorite to come out of the East, and barring some sort of major injury to Brown or Tatum or Derek White, I look at it and think they should get out of the East.
How important? I'm with you, and I don't really respect the Eastern Conference this year. I really don't. Hand up.
It's open.
I like the Pistons, but I feel like every young team, and the Celtics were this team. And I'd say the same about the Hornets. I know they gave the Celtics the business the other night.
Did.
The Magic. These young teams, you got to get punched in the mouth once in the playoffs before you're ready. And the Pistons haven't gotten that punch yet. They're the young team that's going all out every night because it's all they know, and so it's going to help them in the regular season. Again, the Celtics were there. The Knicks, get out of here. I still don't see it with them.
And I'm not a big Mike Brown guy.
No.
I think that was a downgrade from a coaching standpoint. He's not a terrible coach. Like I'm not sitting here telling you he's like an awful coach, but I think that's a downgrade from Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, the Cavs are fine. Like
the Cavs are the team that maybe scares me the most.
They scare you the most
if they can get it together because I'll tell you what, because they have size. And if you have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen inside, and that's a little bit of a weakness, I think, for the Celtics. And Donovan Mitchell is a guy who always plays well against the Celtics and is able to kind of light them up. They add Harden, so they have some shooting around him as well. You have guys that can knock down open shots, Dean Wade around Mitchell. That's a team that if they can get it together, they've been an underwhelming, disappointing team, but if they can get it together somehow, that's maybe the team I would fear the most in the East.
Okay. So the Cavs sit 3 games behind the Celtics. They're in 4th. Knicks are in the middle and 3rd. Sees 4 games back of the Pistons entering play today. How important to you is seeding versus rest or whatever you want to call it down the stretch? We can assume Tatum probably not going to play all 19 of these games. Jaylen Brown and Derek White have had more of a workload with Tatum out, so maybe those are guys who want to get rest. Now it seems like Vucevic, if we see him again in the regular season, it's going to be very late. The timeline reported last night by Shams was a month. The statement from today from the Celtics says 3 to 4 weeks. He'll be reevaluated. Let's say he comes back a month from today. The Celtics play the Hornets to kick off the final week of the regular season. Their final regular season game is April 12th. How important is seeding for you versus get Tatum eased in, get Brown and White rested up, and just get all the ducks in a row?
Yeah, I think I lean more towards getting all the ducks in a row. I think Tatum coming back, he's kind of coming back in an ideal time, both for him and for the team. I always believed he needed 18 to 20 games of runway to be able to get to a point where he could be really impactful in the way we're used to in the playoffs. And then for me, looking post-All-Star break, I think that Jaylen Brown was kind of starting to wear down a little bit.
Yeah.
It looked like that to me, that maybe carrying the team was taking a little bit of a toll on him. And there were some clunkers in there shooting-wise when you look at what he's done since the All-Star break. There were some really good games, too, but there were a couple of clunkers in there. One of them that comes to mind is the game against Denver. You know, that was a game where he didn't shoot very well. There was another one, 7 of 21 against Denver. He had a 7 of 19 against Charlotte. So when a 10 of 28 against the Lakers. So I think that Tatum coming back takes some of that burden off of him. But I would lean more towards, look, it doesn't matter in my mind whether they're the 2 seed or the 3 seed. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure everybody's as well rested and healthy and they have the best chemistry and continuity they can have going into the playoffs.
How much does the Vucevic injury impact now? Because you're going to need to fill those minutes, and they don't have a lot of depth in the front court, so they went out and traded for him.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a rough acclimation to the Celtics, I think, for Vucevic, and he is a defensive liability. He does help them with the rebounding, but now you're getting Tatum back, so you're
had
probably
12 last night.
Yeah, so you're probably not going to miss his rebounding too much. Certainly the team has a higher ceiling if you can get Vooch fully integrated, but it's been a little rocky, which can happen at times. I don't think at this point it's a huge loss, especially the way Luka Garza is playing. But one thing I did like with Vucevic was the fact that I thought it took some pressure off of Neemias Queta to be able to stay in some of these games. You know, one of Queta's big issues all year long has been the fouls.
Yeah.
He has a little bit of a difficult time with fouls at times staying in games. And now you sort of go back to that with him taken out of with Vooch taken out of the mix here and out of the rotation. So that could be a little bit of a challenge. But I think it doesn't hurt as much because you're adding Jayson Tatum back in. And it was interesting. You talked about this before the show. Pre-game, maybe Joe Mazzulla jinxed him. He said, now we're whole. They weren't whole for very long.
No. And then the real crazy one was, I know I keep going back to Cooper Flagg, but like when he rolled his ankle in that game, it was like, oh, come on.
I know.
And he went down hard.
He did, and it looked like I don't know what he said post-game about it, but it didn't even look like...
I think he said he like rolled it or something.
Okay.
He downplayed it.
On TV, it didn't even look like the ankle. It was like, oh, is this the foot again? Because he'd had the mid-foot sprain that had kept him out until the night before when he came back against Orlando. So it was like, oh, no. Did he sprain his foot again?
And when he got up, he was limping around. I don't know how much of the show they had to take a timeout, and it was like, you can't one in, one out. What'd you think of Flagg last night?
I like him. Just he does so many things well. I know that statistically it wasn't what was he 7 of 23?
Yeah, he was very aggressive. I like Flagg is one of these younger players that it's weird. They're younger players, but they play what I would almost, as somebody who's in his 30s, feels like a throwback style to me. You don't see guys play that aggressively, that physically, as much as maybe you did 15 years ago. But like him, honestly, Wemby kind of does it. Now, Wemby's 17, he's his own thing, but it's cool seeing this, what looks like a new generation doing that. But it cost him at times, that aggressiveness. 7 of 23 over.
He doesn't get the whistle. He definitely got a rookie whistle. There were multiple times he should have gone. He only shot 2 free throws.
Yeah.
He probably should have gone on the free throw line about 8 to 10 times in that game, and you could see the frustration. I was really impressed with his playmaking, his passing, and his defense. Yeah. There were a couple of times he took the ball from Jaylen Brown, or he stopped Jaylen Brown when Jaylen Brown was trying to make a move. He's going to be a tremendous, tremendous player. The Mavericks fans deserve him. The Mavericks as an organization do not deserve him.
Well, so it's
after
funny.
The Luka trade.
Jayson,
that gets lost in the tanking discussion, by the way. I find it much more offensive that a team can be completely inept in the way they're operating the team and trade a generational player like Luka and then get rewarded with the number 1 pick in Cooper Flagg. That is much more offensive to me than a team like Utah with Austin and Danny Ainge saying, we're just going to play a bunch of young guys and try and develop them. And, hopefully they'll develop. And, oh, by the way, in the meantime, we'll increase our draft position. Or Indianapolis saying it's Indiana saying it's a lost year without Tyrese Halliburton and we're losing these games. That's much more, because that's a plan. Right. That's something you're doing, and you're trying to execute a plan to win. What Dallas did, there's no way. That's way more offensive to me that they somehow magically win the ping pong ball parade
Magic
and end up with Cooper Flagg.
Magic is one word for it. Well, Adam Silver in an interview the other day, I guess, where he said, we're going to figure out a way to fix it, which I'm sure will be.
Yeah, at the Sloan Conference, which is going on here. Yeah,
I'm sure whatever he comes out. I don't know how you feel about Adam Silver. If I was a basketball fan, not a fan, I am a basketball fan. I asked, me and Matt Dolph were talking about it. He had some ridiculous comment. I forget which one it was. He's had a lot of ridiculous comments lately.
Yeah, he's kind of on his David Stern all of a sudden.
As a basketball fan, do you feel like the sport is in good hands with Adam Silver?
Overall, yes, because I think Adam Silver is a basketball fan. Right now, I do think he's a little power drunk. And here's what I would say if I were one of these presidents of basketball operations to Adam Silver. I would say, Adam, are you qualified to evaluate basketball players? Are you qualified to build a team? Do you understand what we're trying to do in terms of again, I'll use Utah as the example, try and develop some of these young players like Ace Bailey. Do you know you're saying this is tanking, but we're playing young players. They are going to make mistakes. They have to develop. Are you qualified in any way to construct a championship basketball team? And the answer is no, he's not. He's not qualified to evaluate NBA players or to evaluate how teams evaluate players. And that's where I think he's going overboard. People know I don't love the NBA Cup. I think it's a gimmick. But I think that has less to do with him, with the league not being in good hands, and more to do with he's a big soccer fan.
But that's,
and he wants to integrate that.
I think those are one and the same.
Okay.
He's tone deaf. He's tone deaf to the teams. You make a great point. He's tone deaf to the fans. That comment about, well, you can just go watch the highlights.
Oh, that was
he
bad.
Lost me.
Okay.
At that point, I'm like, the sport's not in good hands. Now I bet they're going to add another tournament for the first overall pick, which, like you said, it's a gimmicky tournament. And on top of that, you think about what you're communicating to those players. We're going to make you play extra games so that your team has an easier job of replacing you.
That's true.
Think about the message. And also, well, it'll give the fans something to watch. Yeah, that's what we want to watch. The worst teams in the league all play each other. That's the product we want. Please, Adam Silver.
Yeah,
give me the worst teams. Please give me the Hornets and the Jazz in a best of 5. I will park my ass on the couch for that.
You know, it's funny because let's continue to go down this rabbit hole a little, because I will say I have a theory on why he's so hard into the tanking thing. One, I think he does the league a disservice. I know I'm in the minority in this, but I don't think tanking is that much worse in the NBA than other sports.
Nope,
Again, you look at baseball and teams like Houston, 3 or 4 years of 100 consecutive losses and what they do. You see it with the White Sox now and with the Rockies. You saw it towards the end of the season with the Jets when they had a healthy Justin Fields.
Yeah.
They had a healthy Tyrod Taylor, and Brady Cook's still starting these games. So I think he does a disservice by buying into the tanking. But part of my theory is he would rather have you outraged and upset about the tanking because he feels like he can't control that than the gambling. They want you to talk about the tanking and not Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier and how easily that happened and how it happened under the league's nose and the fact that they really can't do anything about it. He would much rather have you focused on tanking where he can come out as the big heavy and say, I'm going to do this, as opposed to like, hey, is this prop bet gambling stuff still going on in the NBA with players and maybe with rogue refs? He doesn't want you thinking about that.
You had some college players banned from their conference tournament, I think, because they wouldn't testify about it. So that's a great point. We got to hit this break. One more segment of the sports upset. There's one more thing I want to get to on the Mavericks roster construction last night. Cooper Flagg tanking, all that. We'll do that next here on Sports Hub Celtics Show. Back here on Sports Hub Celtics Show, Alex Barth, Chris Gasper. We got Bruins puck drop coming up in 4 minutes. Any final thoughts on Jayson Tatum's night?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just great to have him back, and you see, again, the glimpses of what this can be, and I think he's going to get up to speed probably faster than people think. And the thing, again, that stood out to me was how deferential he was, and I think that's going to be a theme here from the standpoint of he realizes this is a team that established an identity over 62 games, and he can't just sort of come in and make himself the focal point immediately. They'll find a way to get him back to being Jayson Tatum, but he also has to sort of blend in here. So I thought that his approach, his attitude, the fact that he used the word gratitude post-game, and Joe Mazzulla said this, he said, not only is he coming back, do I think he'll ultimately be a better player, but I think he's coming back as a better person and better teammate. So I thought that was really encouraging in terms of the way Jayson Tatum handled himself, being able to integrate back into the team.
And a lot's been made about Tatum integrating back in the team. And we didn't talk a ton about this. We only had an hour. But in terms of the team getting back around him, I know it's a lot of eyes on Jaylen Brown, but did anybody stand out last night, how things changed for them with Tatum on the floor?
Yeah, I thought, yes, Derek White. I thought Derek White got less defensive attention, and I thought he got easier looks. And he and Tatum sort of have a natural chemistry to begin with, but more Derek White off the ball more, because you have Tatum back as another ball handler, I think is a good thing for Derek White. I thought the looks that he got, some of the opportunities he got, and now, again, that you've seen Jaylen Brown, while Tatum was absent, really develop as a playmaker, become a better playmaker. Those two guys, and Pritchard when he's in there, being able to create and set up shots for a guy like Derek White, I think it puts Derek White more back into his natural role where he really excels, which is being more of a third option or a 3.5 option than being asked to be a number 2 option.
I teased before the break my one other thought about the Mavericks team building and all that. Jason Kidd said last night, because Cooper Flagg got a big ovation when he was announced starting lineup. I've never heard a road player get a cheer like that, especially here in Boston. I think that annoyed a lot of Mavericks fans because they're like, what about Luka?
That's right.
Maybe it doesn't count, because that's not really a road player. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, Chris Gasper, before we wrap it up, taking the Tom Brady game out of it, because that's the obvious answer. The biggest ovation you've ever heard for a visiting player?
Oh, biggest ovation.
Because that might be it for me last night. I was at Johnny Damon's first game back in Boston. That was pretty significant.
Yeah, I was at that. Yep. He got some booze. I covered that.
But that one last night is up there for me.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the Paul Pierce games coming back here.
Yeah, I was going to think Paul Pierce, KG. I'd say, what about Brad Marchand?
I was just thinking in person. I wasn't at that, but he got quite the... These are all guys that played here.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know that I can think of one as a guy that didn't play here. It's fascinating to think about. But that's a quick Sports Hub Celtics show. Appreciate you.
How about Mariano Rivera?
That's a good one.
I think that's the one.
That's the one, right? After 2004. How about Mo Rivera?
Is it you and Jim back next week?
It is.
So Gasper and Murray back next week, full force. I will be back tomorrow morning. Sports Hub Sunday kickoff. We obviously have a ton to get to. First thing Chris said when he came is he apologized for taking an hour of football from me. If Tatum didn't come back, this hour would have been a free agency preview. We'll have plenty of time to do that tomorrow. Myself, Cerrone Battle, Ryan Garvin will be here as well. He was here pushing the buttons for the last hour. We got Bruins, though. Bruins at TD Garden. They are taking on the Washington Capitals. And Matt McCarthy will be back afterwards for more. For Chris Gasper and Ryan Garvin, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the Bees game. Enjoy your weekend. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.